Hi there, this is Art and Such with my Rainbow Loom tutorial for E.T. from the movie. And I just want to make a note right here. I know a lot of you have made some requests. I am working on a number of projects right now and I'm getting them out as fast as I can, guys. Okay, so for this pattern, for the eyes you can use beads or bands. If you're using beads, you might want a thin wire to thread them on with, or a thread. And you might want some Sharpies or permanent markers to draw your pupils in. I'm going to use a couple of bands in my tutorial here, and I'll show you how to do it with those. You're going to need a couple of hooks, your loom in the offset configuration, and for the skin tone you can use a light brown. This is a caramel. I'm going to use a dark brown this time. You could also use a gray or a tan skin tone, or whatever you're comfortable with and have on hand. So I will be doing one arm and one foot with you, and I'm going to ask you to pause for the others just because they take a really long time to do on video. But at any rate, let us begin. So we're going to do the arm or the hand first, and the arm. And I'll just show you sort of a shortcut. If you don't want the full hand, or if you're finding it difficult, what you can do is take 2 bands and wrap them 1, 2, 3 times on the hook. Pull it onto a doubled over band, and you're gonna do about 13 doubled over single bands, or to the length that you like. So that's if you just want kind of a fist instead of the whole hand, but I really tried to get his 4 fingers and his full fingers, his long thin fingers, so that's what I'll show you how to do here. To begin, you want to take a single band, wrap it on your hook 1, 2, 3 times. You can do it one tighter if you want. Take a single, stretch it, twist it, double it over onto itself, pull your wrapped band over, and replace the end. Take another single, stretch it, double it over, pull the bands off of your hook and onto that band, and replace the end. We're going to do this one more time. Single, double it over, pull through. And that is 1 finger. We want 2 more long fingers. So we're going to do the same thing again. A single wrapped 1, 2, 3 times. I'm going to do it a little extra tight, which is 4 wraps. We're going to pull it onto 3 doubled over singles. If you are more comfortable doing this part on the loom, you can always or any of these parts, you can always start at the top and bring your bands down and then loop upwards. But I find this a little bit easier myself. And a third. So that's 2 fingers. We want 1 more of these long fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stretch, double over, pull through. Stretch, double over, pull through, and last time. And now you're going to take a single band, double it over, pull it through all of the bands that are on your hook, but don't replace it. And now I'm just going to twist my angle around here, or here, I'll show you the easier way. Let's put this back on first. I like to do my actual wrapping in the middle, but it's okay. So I'm going to go on to the end of the hook here. I'm just turn this way so you can see. I'm going to take a single, wrap it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And then if I'm looking at the first piece I had, I'm going to take the side that's closer to the end of the hook and pull it over the wrapped band. So I'm going to pinch and lift and bring that wrapped band into the center. And now we're going to add our last piece here for the thumb. So that's a single. I'm just pushing the hand out a little. Wrap it 1, 2, 3 times. This is a little loose. I want 1 more again. And we're going to pull it onto 2 doubled over singles this time instead of 3, because we want this one to be just a tiny bit shorter. And for the next part, okay, I'm going to use 2 singles and I'm gonna take them together and double them over and pull it through all of these. I'll show you in a second, but first the alternative, if you find that really tricky, you can do a doubled over single instead of two, or you can take two bands together and pull it through. This just gives it a really tight look. So two together, stretch them out, double it over, and pull it through all the bands on the hook. Make sure you get them all. And if you can keep it in order, try to keep it in order as best you can there. And we want to do this until all the pieces are sliding smoothly and comfortably over. This is why I told her you could do it with just a doubled over single if you want to. Okay, and now I think I've got them all. I'm going to put the other end back on. And from here, it's not so bad. From here, we're just going to switch to doubled over singles. Make sure that wrapped one is in the middle. Maybe I'll do that once it's a little off the hook here. Single, double it over, pull it through. Single, double it over, pull it through. And you can use any number between about 10 doubled over singles, and I'm just trying to get this wrapped band more centralized. You could use anywhere between 10 doubled over singles now or 13, and you'll kind of have to decide on the length you like. I'm going to use 11 because that's what I did for my other arm. So this was 1 and 2 and 3 doubled over singles now. 4. If you want to keep your bands a little bit straighter, you can do this on the loom. That might help you. So I like to twist when you do it this way. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9, 10, and 11. Now the longer this gets, the floppier it's going to be, and if you find it's a little too hard to control, you can always sort of cinch it into the body at the end by putting your band through and connecting the pieces like so. Put it on C-clip, or you can use a paper clip or a thin wire to sort of straighten or shape out those limbs. This is, as I said, 11 doubled over singles. You're going to put that on a holding hook and pause to make your other arm, please. And then things get a little bit easier because we're onto our little feet. Those are similar to the arms, but not so bad. So for your feet, take a single, wrap it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Pull it onto a doubled over single. And we're going to repeat this 3 times. Or a total of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4 bands, 4 wraps onto a doubled over single. Replace, and last time, single, wrapped, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pulled onto a doubled over single. From here, we put all of this on a doubled over single. And we're going to replace the other end. Adjust what needs adjusting here, and we put this onto 2 single brown bands together. And this can go onto your holding hook, and you're going to make a second foot. And then we're ready for the loom, where we're going to start working on our body. Now, before we begin, I just want to tell you I didn't do any extensions either on top or on the sides. You're welcome to do that if you want it to be a little bit thicker either way. But for this figure, what we need is our loom, and we're going to come down from the top center peg to the next peg down with 3 brown bands together. If you really want to save some bands, you can keep that with 2, that's okay. This just makes it a little stronger. And we're going to repeat that 2 more times. So 3 bands down and 3 bands down. We're going to give him his long floppy neck here. Having a terrible time seeing my picture here. The light's really bright for once. Okay, let's take 2 bands from the 4th center peg and bring them to the 4th side peg. And do that again from the 4th center to the 4th left. And we're going to come down using double bands. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in the middle. Starting at the 4th peg down, double bands. I'll hold this up for you in a second. Okay, so you should have 1 peg left on the bottom of your loom in the center. And on either side, we're going to come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So we end just above that middle row using double bands again and starting at the 4th peg down on either side. Okay, so once this is laid out as you see it here, you're going to take 2 bands. And this is kind of nice, everything's the same color so I don't have to differentiate there. Right, we did our feet last, so we'll do our feet here. Take 2 bands and pull your foot onto those 2 bands. And you're going to stretch this from the 3rd peg up from the bottom on the left to the 2nd peg up from the bottom in the center. Just like so. And same thing for the opposite side. If you want to do the arms first and come back to that, that's fine. I'm just trying to do it the reverse order from the way we made them so that it's hopefully faster for you to get off your hook. Your arms are going to go in the 4th peg down on either side. Just transfer the bands that are on your hook onto that peg. Make sure you get them all. And there we go. And our next step, I believe, will be our holding bands. Everything else is in place. So let's get some single brown bands. You're going to start at the 5th peg down and bring your band onto all of the pegs on that 5th peg down. So the center one and each of the side ones. And we're going to repeat that underneath, and we're going to do that 3 times in total. So on the 6th pegs from the top, you'll make another triangle, and on the 7th pegs down. And our next one is going to be as tight as you can possibly make it, and that's how we cinch in the waist just a little bit here. So we'll start by bringing it across, and then you want to double it over, twist it, bring it back over those same pegs. And if you've got it in you and your bands are strong enough, you're going to give it another twist and bring it back across. So make it just as tight as you possibly can without breaking that band. And our last 2 bands are just going to be single stretched across again. Sorry, last 3, there's one more under here. Now if you want to make an extension, I'll show you super quickly. We'll do a 1-minute deviation here. What you would do is take a single, wrap it twice, and put on sets of double bands in a chain, so the desired length. So if I wanted it to be thicker here, I would have, let's see, I would have 2 sets in my chain, because, oh, if it was up to here, I would have 2 sets in my chain, one to cover this base securing band would cover that, and that piece goes there, and the next one goes on to the section where you want the extension to go to. Don't do this if you don't want the extension. This is just to show you how you would go about it. And then you take the piece out of the intervening chain and pull it over. And when you loop like normal. You just go for the bottom ones and bring it over. So that's a very, very basic, quick how to do the chain there. Let's put a cap band on the center peg, the second from the bottom. Just twisting it about 3 times over. And then we're going to get under that cap band and find the top 2 next bands, which will go back over to the right side. This is a little bit tricky because all of our bands have the same colors here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull these over onto the next peg down. That way I can reach through, I can see them, I can grab them, and then once I have them, I can take them off of that bottom peg. It's going to be just a little tight, but only for a minute. And I'll secure that in place by going underneath and bringing the next bands up. You'll see it a little more clearly on the other side. Go in, get the bottom next 2 down, bring them over to the left. And what I did on the right, what I'll do here, go under, grab the bottom 2, scoop them up and bring them forward. And reach inside one more time, that bottom center peg. Get the last 2 and bring them forward. Now we're going to loop up the sides. So go to we're now at the 4th peg from the bottom of the loom. You're going to push back the holding triangle band and loop forward. And we do this all the way. Be extra careful when you get to that really tight one, because it might want to break and it might want to catch in your hook too. So each time you just want the bottom 2, and when you get to this piece with the arm, you want to reach inside and again find the bottom 2 and bring them up inwards to the 4th peg down from the top and center. Let's loop up the opposite side here. And loop through the arm, get the last 2, bring it to the middle. Go back down to the 3rd peg up in the center and bring your next bands forward, and we're going to loop straight to the top of the loom. Be sure to get all 3 of your bands on each of those last pegs where we made our neck. So now we want all 3 of the bottommost bands, and the next 3, and the next 3. We can take this carefully off of the loom, but hold on to the bands on the top center peg. So that's the last thing I'm going to take off. Or you can put it on a holding hook or C-clip right now, but I think it's just as well to loosen up the rest of the body and then go back for the full release. I've just had my hand over this so it doesn't pop off while I'm taking the rest out. Now I'm going to go inside the bands on the top center peg and carefully start removing the rest. If you have any loose bands, you can secure them in the back with a holding band. The way you do this is you go under a band, go under a band, grab your loose band if you have one, pull it back under and put it on a C-clip. Now both sides should look more or less the same, so don't worry too much about front or back here. We're gonna start on the face right away. You go back to the loom. And we're gonna do some band wrapping. This is to create the effect of the eyebrow. If you look really closely, these are wrapped bands. And we have 3 wrapped bands on each. You want to do it a little bit tightly, but not too tight, because we have to get under it again later. So I'm going to wrap 3 times, and 3 times, and 3 times. This might even be a little too tight, but I think we'll be okay. Take 2 bands and pull all of your wrapped bands on top. I actually wrapped this tighter on my first one, but it was a pain to do. Take each side of that band, those 2 bands you put the wrapped ones on, and put them on the top center peg and the top right peg respectively. We want to do the same thing for the left side. So a single 1, 2, 3 times, single wrapped 1, 2, 3 times, another one wrapped 1, 2, 3 times. We pull this onto 2 single bands. And this goes onto the left topmost peg and the center peg again. We want 2 bands together to come down from the top peg in the center to the second peg, and another 2 coming down the center, and another 2. So 3 sets in total. 2 sets down on either side. And connect it again in the middle with 2 sets from the 3rd sides to the 4th middle. Your eyes, whatever method you're using, you do want your eyes to be coming across the second peg down on either side. So I'm going to just show you with bands. If you're using beads, it's the same idea. A band, you're going to wrap it 1, 2, 3 times. Push it over. And take a second one for your second eye, wrap 1, 2, 3 times. And you're going to take both of these and pull them over a brown band, but you want to try to keep some distance between them as you do. So pull over one and then the other. And stretch this, or your beads that are sitting on a brown band, onto your second peg down. If you want to kind of separate the eyes a little bit, what you can do is pull one of your bands under or over one of the next pegs, and I'm going to do that just because my bands are moving around a bit. So I think I'm going to bring one side under and one side over. But if your bands are kind of staying in place, then don't worry too much about this right now. If you would like to make a nose, you don't have to make a nose, but a little bulby nose, take a single, wrap it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Put it onto a doubled over single, replace, and pull onto a single band. And that can also go across your center two. That can also go across the 2 pegs down on the side. Just put it over the eye and let your nose sit right there, or you can pop it underneath that 3rd peg down. I'm going to leave the nose out this time, but that's an option for you, and all you have to do with it after is pop it through. The looping is just the same. Okay, let me see if we've got anything else to do here before we start putting this together. We've got this holding our bands in place. We're going to do an extra holding band here. If you don't have anything covering this band because you wanted to keep your eyes straight, and put an extra triangle there. For the sides of the head, we take a single, wrap it 1, 2, 3 times, and pull it onto double bands. I think I just used 2. You can use 3 if you want it a little thicker. Just double check my picture here. Yeah, I do believe that's all I did. And we stretch it from the first peg down to the 3rd peg down on the side. So it just sits really right on the side there. And same for the opposite side. Okay. A single wrapped, pulled onto 2 bands, and stretched across from the 1st to the 3rd pegs down on the side. And we are ready to put on our body and loop. There's only one really tricky part to this, and we'll get through it. So take the bands that are on your hook. You're going to place them on the 4th peg down on the center. And now your body is attached. You're going to reach inside and find, and I'm going to put this down onto the next peg here. I'm just pulling my next neck piece onto there so it's out of the way so we can see better. You don't want to do that too much because it stretches it, but I'm going to be careful. We're reaching into the neck, getting the top two, bringing it to the right. The next two go to the left. The last ones go upwards. I'm going to loop up the side, reach in through all of the bands to get the bottom two. Go in, get the bottom two, bring it forward. Now this is the tricky part. And you might want an extra hook for this because what we need to do is pull up the bottom two bands, hold on to those, and I'm going to use a hook just for demonstration purposes. Now you're going to come from the top of the band that's coming from above, and you want to reach inside all of your wrapped bands. This is so hard to show at this angle. And you're going to collect the two bands that you're holding on your hook that you pulled from the bottom of that top side peg. You're going to get those on your hook, and you're going to very carefully bring your wrapped bands over. I'm going to turn this way. And try to do it without popping anything off of the loom if you can. If you're really having trouble with this, you can loop up your centerpiece or get a C-clip to hold some of the other sections while you're doing this. If you're having a really terrible time, then I would say undo some of your, take a step back, take off some of your bands, and wrap your bands a little looser. Okay. I'm pretty sure those are the right ones, and I'm going to place them onto the top center peg. And we're going to repeat this on the left side. So loop straight up 2 times. And then we want to catch the bottom two, take it off. I am going to hold it on my finger this time because it's a little easier for me. And reach your hook through all the wrapped bands. Try to get through all of them, so it'll look a lot neater. My hook's catching on the wrong places. And take those 2 bands that you pulled out and were holding, and bring your wrapped bands over. And yes, this is a pain to do, but after this we're almost done. Put it to the center. You can see a couple of my bands are popping off, but they're on the side row that we've already looped, so I'm not too worried. Go back to the 3rd peg down in the center, loop up 2 times. That time I am worried I grabbed the wrong ones. Something's not right there. Let's try that again. One of these doesn't belong. Okay, there we go. I grabbed one of my eye bands by accident there. We loop up one more time, take a single brown, take your hook, point the open part away from you, and press it through the bands on the top center peg. Collect your band, slide it up through, and we're going to catch the other end on the hook and pull one side over the other to create a slip knot. And we can take this off of the loom, make 1 or 2 quick adjustments, but we're pretty well done now. Okay, if anything's loose, hide it in the back, secure it, decide which side you want to have to be your back, and you're going to turn that way. Go under a couple of bands, grab your securing band, the one on your finger you used to tie it off, pull it through. You can repeat this 1 or 2 times if you want. Under a couple bands, pull it through. Same thing you do for a loose band. We're going to put it onto a C-clip. And if you want to draw pupils on your eyes, you can now. And if you want to press your nose through, you can. And if you want to shape or steady your limbs with wire, you can do that. Either way, your ET is done. I thank you for watching, and I'll try and get some more videos out for you soon.